All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get to our first discussion. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has said that there is no plan to postpone the election. He said that the timetable for the election stands as the commission presents a clean voter register of 93,469,008 to political parties in Abuja. TVC News senior correspondent Jakadisa reports on this.
Section 10, subsection 6 of the newly enacted Electoral Act mandates INEC to present a clean register of would-be voters to political parties well ahead of any election.
So I present this to your party. Bros, take it easy now.
It is in fulfillment of this provision that INEC is meeting with representatives of political parties. Nigeria now has 93,469,008 registered voters. Lagos State takes the lead with 7,060,195, and it is followed by Kano with 5,921,370, while Kaduna is just behind with 4,335,208 registered voters. In the last 48 hours, INEC has been at the center of discussions regarding its fears that rising insecurity may compel a shift in the 2023 general election, which is about 6 weeks away. This has generated widespread reactions, even from the government of the day, which insists nothing will jeopardize the elections.
The repeated assurance by the security agencies for the adequate protection of personnel, materials, and processes also reinforces our determination to proceed. The 2023 general election will hold as scheduled.
The political parties applaud the efforts of the Commission so far and promise their continued support towards achieving set goals.
Political parties are resolved to ensure that we cooperate with the Commission to ensure that the Commission have a smooth and successful election.
We've been campaigning for the past almost 1 year now. And we have a set target of election coming on the 25th of February for the first one, second one on the 11th of March. So it's a welcome development, and we are excited that INEC keeps the timetables.
The situation in Anambra was tensed, but the Commission went ahead with the cooperation of other political parties and then held the election. The atmosphere now is more peaceful than what we had during the Anambra governorship election. So there's no reason whatsoever why the election will not hold.
The coast is getting clearer, with 11 out of the 14 scheduled activities of INEC for the 2023 elections now executed. Nigeria now has over 93 million registered voters as attention shifts to PVC collection, which is slated to end on the 22nd of this month. TVC News, Abuja.
All right, joining us from our Abuja studio is political affairs analyst Michael Oluwagbemi. It's nice to have you join us this morning, Michael.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, INEC has come out to say that elections will hold as scheduled. But before now, looking at the realities on ground, where there were skepticism that election will hold due to security, the election could be postponed or even cancelled due to security challenges and attack on INEC offices and so on, and personnel. From your understanding and permutation, was that the attack on INEC offices, was that adequate enough to even have thought of postponement of election?
Again, good morning, and thanks again for having me on your program. Very clearly, it's very worrisome when any infrastructure of democracy is to say, or infrastructure, even infrastructure of state, anything that makes us a modern governing state is attacked. But we will be allowing the terrorists, the enemies, to win if we give in to what they want to happen. You do not back down in the face of terrorism or attack on democracy. What you do is you press forward. The terrorists, the reason why they keep attacking the infrastructure of democracy is they know that democracy strengthens Nigeria. And we know what they want to do is to weaken this country this blessed country that God has given us. And so we will not allow them. And whatever it takes, we should continue to press forward to deliver an election across the 774 local government areas of Nigeria, regardless of the attack of the enemy and the attack of the terrorists. We should not give in to terrorism. And I think the government, as well as INEC, they are on course to deliver another election, which will be an extension of our democracy that we returned back to in 1999. Too many people died, too many people suffered to give us this democracy, and we cannot take it for granted. If in memories of those people, likes of Kudirat, Abiola, Dr. Bekor, and Somkwiti, and the rest of them, we must continue to press forward and deliver an election in February 2023, as well as March 2023 for the gubernatorial elections, all across Nigeria. And I think this is the determination of the government and INEC.
Right, and of course, INEC has said there is no going back, and that is it. So people are moving forward. But how do you expect that this will also translate to the average psyche of Nigerians, especially Nigerians who are in some areas that have already brought upon more security concerns? How you think this will translate to them coming out with this assurance by the INEC chairman?
Yes, it's very important that Nigerians have the same psyche as the government. We have to understand first and foremost that we are in a fight of our life against the terrorists, against enemies of Nigeria. And we must join hands with our governments to root them out from anywhere they can be found. And it's also true that we as Nigerians have a lot to contribute, not to create a general feeling or psyche of fear. Because when terrorists attack you, they're not attacking you just to claim casualties. What they're trying to impact the psyche of the citizens. And we will have allowed the enemies to win if we give in to the demands of these evildoers. So I think first and foremost, the Nigerian leaders should be out there boosting the morale of the Nigerian people, regardless. I mean, many countries in the world are facing this issue of terrorism. Just yesterday, there was a train attack, a knife attack on the Paris train system. 6 people were injured. Some are probably on life support as we speak. So it's a phenomenon across the world. It's not just limited to Nigeria. In the US, over 200 people have been lost to gun violence since the beginning of the year. Terrorists and criminals, they will continue to be among us, but we cannot give in to them. We must continue to push forward as a people and insist that we are going to not let any levers of our democracy to fall just because we're under the threat of terrorism. It is true that a lot of these incidences are going on, but the other truth also, at the same time, when we think about this, is that according to Beam Consulting, the security consulting company, this month there have been attacks across 31 local governments among the 779 local governments of Nigeria. So it means that out of the 779, some level of security incidents, everything from minor kidnapping to minor stealing to major kidnapping and banditry, has gone on in 31 out of the 779. The vast majority of over 740 local governments are still safe, based on this month's data. So we cannot let incidences that is happening in different flashpoints across the country then allow us to be demoralized and allow us then to give in to the demands of the enemy or the terrorists. Nigerians have to press forward and our psyche has to be boosted. At the end of the day, this is about strengthening our democracy and strengthening our country and leaving our country living a better country for our children and grandchildren.
All right. As it is now, INEC has released its voter register, and we're seeing unprecedented number of voters on the register so far, 93 million Nigerians. This is the first time we're hitting this number in the history of the country. Do you think this puts more pressure on INEC and its process? Because the numbers are huge when it comes to those who are getting involved in the process this time around.
Yeah, well, as it were, I think first and foremost, it shows that the Nigerian people continues to have confidence in the process. If Nigerians do not believe that democracy is working and our electoral laws at least has improved over the number of years, then there will not be an increased number of people registering for elections. So I think the increment in the number of people registering for an election is a boost to the confidence, is an indication of an increase in the confidence of the Nigerian people in democracy, and that is a good thing. I think INEC has been sufficiently funded. I think over the years, the National Assembly has done a good job of also front-loading INEC funding before elections to make sure that they are not scrambling too late to the elections, given the experiences we had in 2015 with postponement and again in 2019. I hope INEC has learned some lessons in terms of how to distribute materials and how to ensure that we are properly prepared for elections and not have another postponement in 2023. We already have two back-to-back postponements in 2 cycles, and I think some lessons should have been learned. We're a big country, no doubt, one of the largest democracies in the world. And of course, we're going to have a big turnout, and I think that is good for Nigeria, and I hope INEC is prepared. INEC is a large organization. It's now realizing that elections don't take place every 4 years any longer. They are always doing some kind of supplementary or major election on off-cycle elections throughout the interregnum period between the 4 years. I think there's been a lot of practice, there's been a lot of experience. The current chairman, this is his second tenure, so he understands the steering better than the last time around. So I'm hoping that the INEC is ready for the job. And I think Nigerian people are ready. We're ready to vote. And I can assure you that if we all work together as a people, as Nigerians, there's nothing the Nigerian mind or the Nigerian hand cannot do. And I'm confident that INEC will be able to deliver an election in 2023, as they've done in 2019 and 2015.
Right. A key feature in the latest voter register is the number of the youth that are eligible to vote. And the statistics are saying about that 7.06 million youth are on the list. And if you look at their involvement so far, how would you, assess their value to the system and your expectations ahead of the polling days?
Yeah, young people constitute a majority of Nigeria's population. 75% of our population are youth. In terms of voting age, I think it's about 50%. Let's remember that according to UN statistics, the youths are folks between the age of 16 and 35. So, of course, between 16 and 18, you still cannot vote. So, in terms of proportion, they should be 50% of the registered voter. But now we are looking at them at about 35 to 40% of the registered voters. There still needs to be a lot more registrations to be done. Young people that are turning 18, 19, 20 needs to be already brought up onto the voters registered. Strategies and mobilization strategies around getting youths to vote also needs to increase. I see that there's an increased energy, at least online, by Nigerian youth. And I think that is a good thing. But I hope that this time around, this increased energy that is online in social media can be translated to votes on ground. Ultimately, it is the votes on ground that matter. There is no polling unit online, and you cannot use your PVC online. You have to go out and you have to vote. And on that day, because you are part of one of the largest democracies in the world, there will be long lines, and the weather might not be climate. You have to wait on the line because somebody died, many people, men and women. And again, I will repeat, Kudirat Abiola was shot in order for us to have this democracy. There are various people that died in prison. Bagudu Kalto, a journalist, was murdered in Kano, Kaduna, I believe, during that struggle for democracy after June 12th. We cannot just take our rights to vote for granted. And I plead to young people to understand that whenever they go out to vote, they are voting for Kudirat Abiola, they are voting for Bagudu Kalto, and the millions of heroes and heroines that died as Nigerians fought to have their democracy back in May 29, 1999.
All right. I wonder when you see the numbers, because even last year we saw that the number of those who voted eventually was a little less than half, or just about half on the average of the total number of those who registered. And this year, a lot of people are saying, okay, with the number of those who are showing passion and enthusiasm towards the election, the numbers should increase. But we've always had the situation where the number of those who get their PVCs, get registered and all of that, if you juxtapose it and compare with the number of those who actually go on the day of voting to vote, it's always a very sharp difference. Why do you think we often have these occurrences?
Yeah, well, I mean, the reasons are plethora, there are many. Let's remember that the fact that you're registered to vote does not mean that you've picked up your PVC. The fact that you picked up your PVC does not mean you will be able to vote. For example, you cannot vote outside of the jurisdiction where you're registered. So if you have changed location, or you got married, or you got a new job, or you moved because you're a student, then you might not be able to vote on election day because you're simply not where you can vote. So these factors do matter. So typically, like the last round of elections, we had about 82 million registered voters, 69 or 70 million people picked up their PVC, and eventually 29 million people voted. Again, you can see that there's almost like a 30% drop at each of those levels, ultimately when you now compare to the final data of people that voted. In democracies across the world, it's quite typical actually to have between 30 to 50% voter turnout based on registered voters, and likely voters to be about 50%. And Nigeria is tracking about that. So again, it is just the nature of the logistical nature of how we vote. And we have these logistical restrictions in order to ensure that there's an integrity of votes. Otherwise, you can just vote online or vote anywhere and it wouldn't matter. And then maybe we can have a higher turnout. But again, the credibility of the election will be questioned. So I think we should be looking at anything between 35 and 40% voter turnout this time around based on registered voters. And likely voters, which are going to be those voters who have picked up their PVC, will be about half. And that will give you roughly, just based on the registered voters now, tracking at about 92 million. If you're looking at about 35 to 40%, then you look at the likely voters, total voters of about between 32 and 35 million. That is what we are likely going to get ultimately. Because again, it's the logistical natures of this election. Not everybody is able to pick up the PVC, personal reasons, reason of movement, of all, and not everybody also will be able to vote, even after picking up their PVC. But the point is, by registering to vote, you voted for democracy. That's what I always say. First register to vote, and then you can be part of the pool. And then, if you can, make sure, if you must, in fact, you must try to pick up your PVC. And again, you also have to remember that in between all of these, there's also mortality rates. The death rate in Nigeria is about 11%. So you can guarantee that 11% per year, you can guarantee that anything from 5 to 6% of those people on the voter roll currently are no longer alive. So we have to factor all of these into the data when we are looking at it in the raw form.
From where your last point, that is now about the ongoing PVC collection process, which is ending in a few days from now, January the 22nd. What are your thoughts on the process? It's been fraught with some complaints of irregularities and logistics challenges, amongst other factors. Are you impressed?
I would say I'm someone who I'm always for making sure you do all your best in terms of delivering public service. So we can do more. We can optimize the process. I personally do not see I do not think there's any real reason why there's a cutoff date for collecting your PVC. You should be able to collect your PVC up until the night before the election at your nearest local government headquarters. The INEC can simply make sure that after the 22nd, they deploy their staff to all the local government headquarters in the 774 local government areas of Nigeria with the PVC that are remaining. So anybody can simply drive down to their local government headquarters and pick up their PVC if they miss these, wide logistically available PVC that INEC is already doing, where they actually bring it, I think, almost down to your polling unit. But it should still be collectible up until the day before election. It's your PVC, you're right. So I think every effort should be made to ensure that people should be able to collect their PVC when they want it, provided it's at least 24 hours before the election itself. At which point, of course, we know that INEC staff will have to be involved in distributing materials and all of those stuff. So I think we can always optimize the process, but for what it is worth also, we as citizens also have responsibility. We should stop waiting until the last moment to be able to, in order to exercise our civic responsibility. Going to vote is your responsibility. It's not just a right. You must vote, because you do not have any standing to criticize leaders if you have not participated in the process of choosing them. So unless you cannot vote because you are an INEC official, you're a police officer, you're a journalist, and people that are actually actively helping us to organize that election, you really have no excuse not to vote. So I will implore all Nigerians, if they've not gone out to pick up their PVC, you should not wait till the last day to pick up your PVC. Just imagine if Kudirat waited till the last day before she fought for democracy. You and I will not enjoy this democracy today. So all of us should go out there and try to make sure we pick up our PVC so that we can vote on February 25, 2023 for the president and our National Assembly candidate, and follow on March 11 for our gubernatorial candidate.
All right. Now, one thing I'd like us to talk about is the issue of voter education and enlightenment. That is very sacrosanct at a time like this. But how aware about the voting process, what should be done, how it should be done, do you think Nigerians are? Do you think that also that the institutions responsible, for instance, the political parties on one hand, INEC on the other hand, and all the other institutions, are they doing enough to enlighten voters how they should vote? All of that process for an average voter to have a total grasp of what he or she needs to do through the voting period?
You can never over-communicate. So I think that in terms of is the voter sufficiently educated, we must continue to strive to educate the voter. And that is the work of not just INEC or government institutions like the National Retention Agency or state government. Again, when we say government, we're not just talking about federal government, we're talking about state governments and local governments as well. But it's also the work of civic organizations, and especially is the work of the fourth estate of the realm, which is the media. The journalists and the media has its unique responsibility when it comes to election day and how we vote and how we handle or take care of democracy. So I think the responsibility is on all of us to put out correct information, accurate information that is sufficiently educates the voter and allows the voter to make the right choice. And I think that can never be enough. I think that so far so good. Everybody at the beginning, I think Nigerians, compared to 1999 and of course 2003 and 2007, where we had, especially 03 and 07, where we had somewhat of a joke of an election process, I think what we've seen since 2015, especially maybe 2011 and 2015, has been a whole lot better than it used to be. So I think we are proud of the kind of democracy that we have today, and I think it's only going to get better if we do not lose focus. As a people, we must know that the kind of democracy you have is directly proportional to the attention that you pay to it. The price of freedom, indeed, is vigilance, and I think we need to be continually vigilant to make sure that we can deliver the democracy that Nigerians can be proud of.
And, looking at the figures in the latest voters register, there is also this, will I call it a yawning gap now between the numbers for the men and that of the women. It's about 49 million for the men and 44 million are for the women. This has also, sprung up some concerns about the current level of women's participation in politics, wherein, as at now, we should be having more women, who are vying for political offices. We should be having more women at the polls, going there to perform their civic responsibilities. What are your thoughts on this stage?
Absolutely. I think there's a need for us to look at this problem and ensure that we bring as many women as possible into the voter fold. The gap might also reflect some kind of cultural realities across the country, where we do not have sufficient access just generally to social infrastructure by women in some parts of this country. And we must, as a people, understand that you cannot hold half the sun up, the entire sun up with just half of the hand. You need two hands to hold the sun, and that means that we need both men and women to uphold our society. And so we as a people should continue to ensure that we can bridge this gender gap. And I'm a firm supporter of the affirmative action in the political process for women. I think that we need to look at policies and ideas that have been proposed that will give women some kind of guaranteed representation in the National Assembly, as well in our state assemblies, as well as in our local government councils. This kind of guaranteed representation will, of course, encourage more women to participate in politics. I think removing testosterone from politics will also go a long way in reducing violence. I think the current violence and ethnocentrism and religiocentrism that you sometimes find in politics is because it is masculine dominated. Women, as they are our wives, our mothers, and our sisters, they tend to love men who are not necessarily from their ethnic group or their religion. And so I think they fare way better when it comes to tolerance, religious and ethnic tolerance. And I think that's why we need more women to participate in politics. Countries like Rwanda and South Africa, as well as Botswana, that have experimented with this, have seen that the quality of the democracy has improved incredibly when they allowed women to participate in politics affirmatively. In Rwanda, actually, the majority of members of parliament are women. And if you know the culture of Rwanda, from its history of having genocide to today becoming a welcoming country to all Africans, you can tell that opening up its politics to women has reduced the masculinity and testosterone in their politics and have allowed their society to be more open, more tolerant. And I think that will be good for Nigeria because we have way too much ethnicity and religion in our politics, and we need to get rid of them completely because at the end of the day, politics is politics, and we have to be focused on governance and not on whose religion or where we are from. And I think our women folk do better with that. And I'm in very strong support of affirmative action for women in politics. And that includes reserving seats for women up to 33%, maybe even 40%, such that men can run for certain seats and just allow women to run. And as a result of that, more women will participate in politics. And as a result, we're going to get these demagoguery that we tend to get in politics down or out of the window. I think this will go a long way in improving our democracy.
All right, we have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Michael Oluwagbemi, for your time and insight into all of the issues we've talked about. Of course, the days are building up and Nigerians are getting more involved in the process as we look forward to the elections. Thank you so much for your time.